Hello and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. I'm your host, Phil Friedrich, and today I am honored to have Brittney Carbone with me. Brittney is the founder of Glow Fitness, and in her journey and story today, one of the things that I think you're going to hear a lot is really how to overcome obstacles and get to the root cause of the obstacle instead of just covering it up. So, Brittney, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah. So to start your journey, growing up, you were an athletic kid, grew up in a surfing town. So just talk about, growing up in that environment, being out and about, physically active.
Yeah, I grew up in a little, well, I say little, but it has grown up a lot, a little town called San Clemente. It is like southern Orange County in California. Definitely a surf town. We would wake up often before school, go surf, shower with a water bottle out in the parking lot, and go to class. That wasn't every day, but it's kind of the vibe of the city.
Yeah.
And I was really active. I played sports, soccer, ran track, snowboarding, surfing, skateboarding, anything active. I was all about it.
I love it. Now, in your young age, once again, we all make friends, and sometimes we don't know what the friends are going to be into, but you got introduced to alcohol at a young age, which is not very different from a lot of high schools or grade schools or anything, but it just ended up being something that was you were exposed to. So talk a little bit about, getting introduced to that and the friend group at that time.
Yeah, it was interesting. I always say, I had multiple friend groups. I
Yeah.
had the really good kid friend groups, my church group friend groups, and then I had my sports groups, and then I had my bad kids.
Yeah.
And I was a part of all of them because I could shape shift and be who you wanted me to be
Mm.
easily.
Yeah.
And then I started to really find, once I found, the bad kids
Yeah.
and I found alcohol, it was like game on. Game
Yeah.
on. It was like touch and go. Weekends were crazy and then I'd pull it together. And then weekends were crazy and I'd pull it together.
Yeah. Now, as that was, a beginning part of your life, at that point, it probably wasn't too big of a deal, but as you get to college, it naturally ramps up just because, well, you're in college and that becomes a more frequent part of life if you want it to be. And so you had started at one school and then transferred to UCLA. So talk a little bit about that. I think anytime there's transitions, it's you want to almost hold on to something that gives you that sense of comfort and, belonging, even though you're in a transitionary time.
Absolutely. Oh man. Okay. So I went to a junior college with the only purpose of playing soccer.
Mm.
And I went there because I was gonna go either to Arizona State or San Diego, or San Diego State.
Yeah.
And I was like, I might die if I go to those schools
Yeah.
because I know my drinking patterns.
Yeah.
And so coach asked me if I wanted to come play at a junior college. So I went there and I played soccer, and that really kept me in line. Sports kept my head in the game, and I
Yeah.
couldn't mess around too much if I wanted to play sports. And I loved being in soccer and track and all the things. So when I transferred, I went to LA. I went into a school where I felt super different then. I felt like everyone
Yeah.
was so intelligent and I just felt like an idiot. I was like, these people are so smart. And here I am. I've transferred here. I didn't do the dorm thing, so I don't really know anyone. And now soccer's gone. So I have
Yeah.
nothing to keep me in line. So it got a little wild during those years.
Yeah. Now, as you're in this phase, I think there's kind of two different parts, I think you said it well with like the friend group. Sometimes you're like, I like having these people around because of this, but then there's this other group that maybe fills this other void or it fills,
Mhm.
this other place for me. And so it sounded like you were kind of in that balancing act of like, well, I'm not just, drinking all day every day, right? There's other things
Right.
that I like to be doing, but there's other elements that I know this friend group probably isn't going to be okay with or wouldn't want to do this between, 8 p.m. and 3 a.m. or, on the
Right.
weekend. So talk about kind of that balancing act for you within friend groups and social connections.
Yeah, there's something that was important during this period of time is I got an internship at an action sports
Mm.
network. So it's called Fuel TV. I don't think it still exists anymore. But I started working there, and then I started meeting people and started going on snowboard tours and skateboarding tours. And I was really deep in that action sports scene where it is very normal to get hammered.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're working all day, you're on the side of a mountain, and then everyone goes out and everyone gets drunk. It's just so it's part of the culture. And I kind of fell into that cycle. So it wasn't even really just college and those
Yeah.
college friends. It was my internship, meeting the people, going on the road, feeling super cool because I'm like, 19, 20. I'm like, oh, I'm going on the road for work with these snowboarders, and then just sending it. I was going so hard. And I didn't drink every day. It wasn't
Yeah.
like I wake up, roll out of bed and drink. But when I did drink, I could not stop.
Yeah.
That was really,
And And that ends up being a very pivotal moment where there's a night out. We're in the cold of Colorado
yeah,
and we're outside. So talk about that moment just for you as it really became a turning point in the way you were viewing, kind of how you were living your life.
totally. So I had 30 days prior to that. I had, so I guess I feel like it's important to say I knew there was something different about my drinking
Mm,
because in college I had a calendar and I would track how often I drank,
mm,
what I ate, and if I blacked out. Because
yeah,
for me, I could black out after 3 drinks or 20, and blacking out means remembering nothing.
yeah,
But to other people, sometimes seem coherent. So
yeah.
nothing's up here, but I'm just gone. And uh, you know, I had quit drinking because something stupid happened again. I was like, I'm going to quit drinking for 30 days. And then I was in Colorado for work and on a snowboard tour, and I was offered free drink tickets. And if you're someone who has alcoholism, we say it's the only disease that tells you you don't have a disease. And
Yeah.
it's the forgetter. So I was like, oh, I think I'm probably fine. I haven't drank for 30 days. Same thing, negative 17-degree weather, some very kind, incredible humans that likely saved my life took me home. I wake up the next day, not unlike other places or other times, not knowing where I am.
Yeah.
And I have this moment where I walk out into the living room and there's a girl sitting on the couch. I'm crying. I have no recollection of what's happened. And she's like, don't worry, sweetie. I wake up in random houses all the time. And
Mm.
for some reason, I was like, at that moment, I am the girl who wakes up in random houses. This is not what I saw for my life.
Yeah. So as you enter into that space then, right? Everyone is different. Someone listening right now is saying, you know, hey, maybe I can't relate to that exact story, but I can relate to the story. And some people's personalities are better to just cold turkey something. Other people, it's like, well, I'm not going to cold turkey. I need to wean myself right away from whatever it
Right.
is. So, what's kind of your advice when you hit a moment where you're like, all right, I'm ready to make a change? What's kind of the best first few steps to get started?
It's so individual, like
Mhm.
you said.
Yeah.
I'm not personally, I'll say from my experience, I'm not a weaning type of person,
Yeah.
especially with alcohol. And my belief is that I have an allergy to alcohol. So once I start, I don't have an off button.
Yeah.
And it's a gamble. It's Russian roulette. Will I black out? Will I wake up in a random house? Will I throw up? Will I have a great time? I don't know. So
Yeah.
it's Russian roulette for me. So for me, I Googled blacking out and up came the alcoholic test.
Mm.
And do you have issues with alcohol? And I was like, well, I didn't answer yes to all of them. And it was like, if you answered yes to three or more, you may have a problem with alcohol. I proceeded to find, by the grace of God, universe, whatever you want to call it, I found a chat group. This is before
Mm.
Zoom. This is
Yeah.
20 or 2008,
Yeah.
before Zoom was popping. So I'm in a chat room and a guy in there named Ian from New York, which we still talk, and he's amazing. He was like, you need to go to like a real meeting because you sounds like you have an issue. So I went to a recovery group. And for me, that was the next step is
Mm.
getting really clear on what was happening with my drinking. It also runs genetically in my family.
Mm.
So I know what this looks like when I'm 80.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not the most exciting future.
Yeah. So just kind of diving into that, part of things, and we'll get to this as the next phase of life goes. But I think, once again, a lot of a lot of things that become addictions can oftentimes be a mask to something else, right?
Mhm.
There's a level of control, there's a level of stability,
Mhm.
consistency, that I have with it. And once again, I think the hard part is one, recognizing that, right? But two, then you actually have to deal with, that as well. So talk a little bit about, diving into whether it's, a close friend or a family member, someone that can help you kind of explore that path, or is that maybe it's individualized, but is that something better like, hey, I kind of need to, deep dive myself first, and figure that out.
Well, I think, your own brain got you to wherever you are. So I think it
Mhm.
is really helpful to have an outside opinion
Yeah.
or help. Now, you have to be careful of who you go to for this kind of help. So that's why a lot of people will say therapy or a mentor, somebody
Yeah.
that you trust that you can explore these things with. I mean, it's if I had gone to my specific friend group, I did have some friends that were like, you cannot quit drinking. Don't
Mm.
quit drinking. We need,
Yeah.
that's a little dramatic, don't you think?
Right.
And um, if I had listened to that, I could be dead because I don't remember anything. So
Yeah.
who knows where I would have ended up at this point?
Yeah.
So I think it's finding someone that you feel really safe with, and also someone who is, which is why alcoholic to alcoholic, like a sober person to someone who's questioning,
Yep.
is really helpful because we get it.
Hmm.
We
That's
get it. I'm
good.
like, yep, that feeling you're having, totally. You know?
Yes. Well, so as you're moving away from drinking, then we pivot and once again we find something because maybe we hadn't found the exact root cause yet, and food now becomes a topic. And once again, you grew up being an athlete and being active, and oftentimes people that are active, you never even recognize, hey, if I had a couple bad meals or anything, it didn't really matter because I was still active so much that I just burned it off anyway. But now we're in a different phase. You're traveling, you're working full time, and so maybe you're not able to work out as much, and food becomes more, I guess, highly sought after. So just talk a little bit about that next kind of phase and pivoting into something else.
So that's a great. I'm glad that you brought this up. It's important. So food I think was my first addiction.
Hmm.
I think my addiction is, does it feel good? I want more.
Yeah.
So, and what is it doing for me, which I'll get to. So, I put down the drink. Now I traveled for work for a year, and it was airport to airport, hotel to hotel, and hell, to New York, to Dallas, to LA, to San Francisco. It was just back and forth. And I was before this really intensely going to 12-step meetings to support me on my journey through processing my alcoholism.
Yeah.
Now I've got no support. I'm newly sober and I've got this old addiction to sugar and food that didn't previously show up on my body start to show up on my body.
Yeah.
And it was 70, 75 pounds
Yeah.
of weight gain in a year. And what happened was I came home from a trip and my mom was like, I don't recognize you.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, because this is important too. Sorry, I'm going a little bit all over the
You're
place, but
good.
so much of the reason I drank was uncomfortability in my skin.
Hmm.
I was extremely self conscious. I presented as confident when
Yeah.
inside I was like, I'm less than, I'm not enough. I'm fat. I hate that word, but I'm fat. I'm
Yeah.
not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not funny enough. I'm just not enough. And
Yeah.
alcohol took the noise away.
Hmm.
So now I was searching for that in the food, but the food caused a physical evidence that made me more insecure. And now I'm at this point where I put the drink down and I'm not free and I'm stuck in a body that I want to push an eject button on and get out of, but I can't.
Yeah. So, and your mom brings this to you.
Yeah. And my mom she wasn't hard on me. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
oh, what, she just looked at me like, my weight would fluctuate throughout college, becoming a woman, all the
Right. Right.
things,
Right.
but not like fluctuate. I mean, it
Yeah.
it just boom. And
Yeah.
it was apparent and very clear that it was as a result of not very self-loving behavior.
Yeah. Now, I think a delicate conversation or piece of this is
Mhm.
if you're the friend, right? Or if you're the
Right.
sibling, you're the significant other, you're a parent, and you're noticing these changes, whether it's on
Mhm.
the drinking side or the food side, how to go about having that conversation because the last thing you want to do is put them in a spot of, defensive, and now it's
Right.
causing, a rift in the relationship. At the same token, I think we've all probably been in seasons of life, whether it's a relationship or, a job or a decision where you're like,
Yes.
why didn't you just tell me? Like what you were seeing
Right.
something from the outside that clearly I was oblivious or, not paying attention to. So, if you could rewind or think back to that, any connections, is there anything you wish someone might have said at that time, or just advice to people that are maybe in an environment where they're noticing something that they might want to bring to somebody and don't want to do it in a
Mm.
way that's going to tarnish or hurt the friendship?
And we're just talking, oh, like broad, not just
Yeah.
about weight or yeah. I think one of the biggest things is asking someone how they are.
Mm.
And that sounds so elementary or
Yeah.
like the most basic thing, but I think that, something that's been lost is, oh, it makes me emotional because so much that's been lost as true connection.
Hmm.
We're like, oh, but I saw your I've had friends say like, what's going on? You seem so like everything's good, right? Because I saw your post. And
Yeah.
I am very transparent on my Instagram. Like you're gonna know if something's popping off and I'm not happy
Yeah.
because I try to be as transparent as possible. But that basic human connection and that how are you and meaning it,
Yeah.
that keeping that dialogue and connection open is really helpful because then someone feels safe to come to you when things are actually hard.
Yeah.
So I think it's the sitting and listening and spending time with your close friends and letting them open up.
I love it. One a good friend of mine, the question that he has taught me is he goes, there's either two questions or you need to pose the question correctly. He goes, either how are you? And then everyone says good, fine, right? The cliche thing. And
Yes.
then you go, no, how are you? Right? And you ask it again, or you go, no, how are you really? Right? How are
Yes.
you really? And
Yes.
that just invites a whole different conversation because it is so cliche, right? You say, oh, how you doing? And everyone says good or fine because I'm not going to open up a can of worms right now, right? But it's in your true, genuine friendships. Well, no, I'm asking because I wanted to know, right? I don't want to hear
Right.
good. It's not good. It might be great or it might be bad, but it's probably not good.
So that's a great, and that's spot on. That's spot on. Something else that I'll ask people is how's your heart today?
Mm,
And or what was the highlight of your day and what was the hardest part?
yeah,
And it's just I think it's just we've lost the ability to open up and communicate in general.
yeah,
So I think prompting people to kind of look like, oh, what was the hardest part? Some people don't even know.
yeah, right.
We're so oblivious. We're just like, what's my schedule say? I don't know.
Yeah.
What did I have time to have a hard day?
Hmm.
Like, or did I not? We're rushing, so we're can often be disconnected from our what we're actually feeling. And I think that's the
Yeah,
benefit of being in a recovery group or a support group because you learn vulnerability.
I love it. Well, and so as you're now in this phase of life, you've recognized, all right, well, I'm eating more than I probably should be, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
make that change. And that's not unlike many people. And so you start seeing, all right, well, what diets are out there? What options are out there? And you try a lot of them. You can have a blog about how they don't work, right? No, but so talk about, diving into, that kind of quick fix
Mm-hmm.
environment because, once again, you did want to make a change and it wasn't for a lack of trying. It's just a
Right.
lack of sustainability in some of the options that you were exploring.
Oh gosh, yeah, I could write a book on that. So let me just okay, so I for clarity, in high school I had started tracking calories.
Mm.
So again, I was already interested in this
Yeah.
calories, like what does it mean? How do I lose weight? I was in this thing called Live Journal. Shout out to anyone who knows what Live Journal is. I was in support groups to learn how to eat less. So it
Yeah.
was already a thing for me. This is again hand in hand with the body dysmorphia that, uncomfortability in my skin. So fast forward, if you had checked my Google search, it's like how to lose 10 pounds in 10 days.
Mm.
Fastest way to get skinny.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. So I would try all these things because I had no education.
Right.
Right. So I literally did. I think I laugh. It's like someone will say, there's no way you tried this. And I'm like, did it twice, you know, until I hit rock bottom. I did a thing called, I won't tell you the name of it because I don't want anyone to do it. I did a specific diet where you eat 500 calories for 40 days. I lost 40 pounds in 40 days. I gained it back in 2 weeks.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's when I hit rock bottom. with the
And
weight.
so, yeah. And so at that point, you said, all right, I'm going to try something different. You had had a mentor at this point, and I'd love for you
Mhm.
to talk about how the mentor came to be and then what you and your mentor decided was going to be the path forward.
So she was someone I was already working with for my drinking issues, and
Mhm.
she also understood the food issues.
Yeah.
So something that she had me do was write my food down every day, no matter what it was. Again, this is before I really understood what nutrition was.
Yeah.
I wrote it down every day and I sent it no matter what. So in the beginning, it looked like egg whites, turkey bacon, and English muffin for breakfast, chicken, salad. That's it for lunch. 5 packs of Skittles, 2 Snickers bars, a half a pint of Ben and Jerry's, and then a protein shake for dinner.
Yeah.
And then it started getting cleaner because a lot of my food stuff was shame based.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the secretiveness about what I was doing and the hiding. And, I would go to dinner with people, order a salad, and then get Taco Bell on the way home.
Yeah.
It was so much about what you might think of me. So
Yeah.
telling someone, this is what I'm doing, here is the truth. And then her always, no matter what, writing back perfect food,
Mm.
no matter what I wrote, it healed that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not a bad person. And then my food habits started changing.
Yeah. So within that, I think there's two things that stick out. One is having that close-knit relationship where you could
Yes.
be open and vulnerable with it without fear of what's she gonna think or what's she gonna
Mm,
say to me, because I had 3 packs of Skittles, right?
right.
So highlight that. But then I think the second part is, you know, in today's environment, I've heard it described as the microwave culture, right? Like, no, I want it to go in the microwave. I don't even want for preheat the oven and then have to wait for the oven. Like that's a long time ago that was a good invention, right?
Right.
And the reality is for so many things, whether it's a diet, your workout routine. For me, I'm in the world of finance, getting your financial house in order, right? Tracking where you're spending your money. It's not
Mhm.
sexy, it's not fun, but it is important to make sure, like, if you're going to make these things work, that it's going to work long term. So talk a little bit about, having more of the consistent pattern versus the get rich quick or, lose weight quick routine.
It is the hardest part. And if you're someone who struggles with addiction, part of the ism is I want it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want it yesterday.
Yep.
And you say microwave culture, I say Amazon Prime, right? I'm like, can
Yes.
this be
Yeah.
delivered between 10 and 2 or no?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and and so it is, that's why I think that's why fitness wise, people are so respected. When
Mm.
you walk into a room and it's clear that you work out, and I feel a little weird saying this because I don't know, I don't want someone to take it wrong, but people just like respect you a little more.
Yeah.
I will say from being how I was before to now, the difference is very interesting on how people
Yeah.
treat me. And it's
Mm.
not like I'm not saying this is like a self-centered or egotistical way, but it's like, it's not even just that your physique looks different. It's that you stand a little taller
Yeah.
and your energy and your confidence precedes you.
Hmm.
So people can just feel it. They're like, who's that? Like,
Yeah.
because you're just, and I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it's off more often than not when you're in good physical health and fitness, you glow different, which is also why my brand is called Glow.
Yeah.
But I don't, I think I might have just sidebar on your question.
No, it was great. Well, so I'm gonna pick up there and we'll get back to the first one. But
Okay.
on that topic, I mean, so something I'm a firm believer in is, we oftentimes find our confidence in our accomplishments.
Yes.
And the risk we run there, right, is that if I haven't done anything fascinating lately, or if I haven't done any mountaintop moments lately, my
Mm,
confidence may start to drop down. However, something I've tried to train myself and kind of move myself to is my confidence grows when I keep the promises I made to myself, right?
yes.
And it can be a small thing, right? Like, hey, I said I was going to get up at 5 a.m. and I got up at 5 a.m. That's a win, right? And and I think, to your point of you appear different, you stand a little taller. I
Mm-hmm.
think some of it is probably there's an element of physically how I look, right? There's probably some confidence that comes from that. But I think there's another part like I've done the work to be confident, right? Like I made 6 promises that I was going to work out 6 times this week, and I kept all 6 of those. Like, I believe in myself more because I'm doing what I said I was going to do. So maybe talk a little bit, on that and growing confidence.
Oh, it's so spot on. So people, I actually just said this on another podcast is people will say, "Oh, well, you just have to love yourself." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, but my experience is I couldn't love myself until I started to take self-loving actions.
Yeah.
Self-love was developed for me. Confidence was developed over time, consistently repeated actions, and something I took from 12-step program is one day at a time. I
Hmm.
just have to do today. I don't
Yeah.
need to worry about getting to the gym 365 times this year. I
Yep.
just have how can I win this moment? And letting that excite you, letting that make you feel joy. And then noticing how do you feel when you take those actions?
Oh,
Because you're going to do more of them if you notice that you feel good. But if your mindset is, oh, I have to eat this, I have to go to the gym, you're not. It's why would you keep doing it?
right.
You
Well, I
have to
think
shift
that,
the headspace.
yeah, I think that's really good. And the other thing that, maybe you can speak into a little bit is instead of searching or doing something for outside validation, doing it because it matters to me, right? And I think once again, if I were to sit here and say I don't have that, we all have that. We
We
all
all have that.
enjoy outside validation, but there's a difference between, appreciating it when it comes and seeking it because I need it to fill me up.
Yes. So I was speaking on that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is not enough validation in the world that's going to make me feel good. It's fleeting.
Yeah.
Oh, they liked it. Oh, they commented. Great job, babe. Oh, you look hot. Whatever. It means nothing. It's like it means nothing. What would I would say impacts me more is if someone DMs me and says, "Man, I was really hitting a bottom. I listened to that podcast or I saw your post and it shifted my perspective and I'm back in the gym for this week." Whatever. I'm like, "Damn, we made an impact." But
Yeah.
the outside little like hits don't help. I will say if you're waiting for other people to recognize your greatness, you could be waiting forever.
Yeah.
But it's when you recognize your own greatness and celebrate the shit out of yourself, then it's like other people start to see you differently.
Yeah.
That's my experience at least.
Love it. So, as the fitness journey is beginning, you start to enjoy running and
Yeah.
start to do some marathons and have some success there. So, talk a little about getting into running and doing the marathon thing.
I loved running. I loved running. I was heavily addicted to running. I would run at midnight for like 2 hours in LA. Like it was crazy, but I just loved it. And it's what I needed. It's where I processed so many of my emotions. And I truly wasn't doing running for weight loss. It was because I was just probably a little crazy and and I needed that outlet and I just fell in love. It was like I had that purpose again like soccer. So I started running. I mean, I don't know how many marathons, maybe 12 marathons. I probably did 50 half marathons. I started doing trail races, ultra marathon, relay races. It was just crazy and so fun. And I found community in that. And it really did help me elevate my sobriety. And I just fell in love with it. So yeah, it was a really fun time period. I loved that.
Now, within the world of running, I think that is one of and I guess, I mean, almost every area of fitness, but especially running, there's running clubs. There's, hey, we're
Yes.
going to meet at the park at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. We're all going to go for a run. There is that sense of community. And so, for somebody listening who maybe hasn't started their workout journey yet, they're thinking about it, but they're intimidated. Like, gosh, I haven't run more than, a half a mile in 2 years. I mean, whatever it is,
Right.
they've got every excuse to not go do it. What would be your encouragement to find a community, whether it's, I mean, in today's world, online, right, or a group, a coach, or going to a physical gym and bringing a friend? Talk a little bit about that.
As far as the running things, actually, there's a group I'm in. It's called the Slow AF. I don't post it and I don't run, but I don't know how I got into it, but it's a Facebook group called this. Shout out to them because I love seeing the posts. Called like the Slow AF Runners Club. And it's all these people that post their really slow running times.
Yeah.
And I freaking love it. Like there are groups out there that are like, hey, even big running clubs have different pace groups. You
Yeah.
don't need to be a prime athlete. What you need to be is humble and you need to allow yourself to be a beginner again.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is the hardest part as we become adults, because we're like, well, I should know how to do this, or I should be the best. It's like, well, you don't become the best from nothing. You,
Yep.
or you do become the best from nothing, but you're not going to start as the best. So I would say just getting over it and saying, you know what, is the payoff of being in a community and happy and creating friendships more than the uncomfortability? Probably.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, we're not a runner today in regards to
No.
like, you're not running marathons and whatnot. You end
No.
up getting a little burnt out by it, but that leads you to finding kind of the strength training and, a different side of fitness. So talk a little about what turned you on to that or how you got started in that world.
Well, I guess I have to be the honest here. The truth. Okay, the truth is I ran off all of my muscle. And then I started seeing people like Paige Hathaway. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's like a big fitness influencer. She used to do like shreds, all these things, right? Back in the day. It was the first time I had seen a female with muscle that still looked feminine.
Mm,
Because in my mind, and I was, by the way, very muscle phobic. I was like, muscle. If someone said, oh, I have muscle, I would cry. Like, please tell me no, because that was like the heroin chic era.
yeah,
So, and I think that's trying to make its comeback. So don't fall for it. But anyways,
it's all cyclical.
I know I'm like, here we go again, right? Like, here we go. But so I was like, I really want to build a booty. I was like, I want to build a butt because my nickname was Pancake. Like my everyone would be like, you have pancake butt, right? Right. No shade to small booties, but I was like, my booty, I want to build it. And I got excited by the fact that I could create curves because I'm a pretty up and down person. And I was like, oh, I could like create shapes. And I got really interested in how my body could become art. And
Mm.
so I started lifting at just like a regular 24-hour fitness. And I, got the courage to go to Golds in Venice. And that's where things started popping.
So what
Yeah.
about it made it pop there? What about goals was the thing?
Golds back then was a vibe.
Yeah.
Every big bodybuilder trained there. I walked in there. I had to get on the phone with my friend to hype me up to walk in. I'm walking in. I run into Arnold Schwarzenegger the first time I'm showing up there. We trained every single day next to each other. He probably has no idea who I am, but I obviously know who he is. And it's the energy because it is about community. Even though I didn't know anyone, but you start to do the head nods. Oh, I
Yep.
know you. Oh, I see you every morning. I see you. Hard work recognizes hard work.
Yep.
So when you keep showing up, you start to create a community, even if it's unspoken.
Yeah.
And it's like then people would start to know if I missed a day or whatever. And I started working with a trainer there, and he really helped me to build my confidence. And then someone was like, "You should compete." And then I did. And the first show was horrendous. We can go into that if you'd like, but yeah, I mean, it's like you're gonna follow the path of the people you surround with yourself with. I went to a bodybuilding gym not realizing I would end up a competitor.
Yeah. Well, so in something that I think happens a lot when you start surrounding yourself with people that are maybe, where you want to be, is they can start seeing things in you before you see them in yourself.
Yes.
And I think if Brittany rewrote her story and never met those people, there's probably a low percentage chance that you would have ever listed like competing in a competition in your list of 100 things to do, right? However, all of a sudden you're around people that are in that world and they're like, well, actually, you are a natural or you've got this unique thing that maybe you should try that. And you're like, well, if someone that does it thinks I can do it, maybe I should think I can do it. So maybe
Yeah.
talk about, having someone believe in you and kind of inspiring that next journey for you.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to say that never in a million years did I think I'd get on stage in a sparkly bikini and say, hey, judge me. Tell me if
Sounds like a
how,
nightmare for a lot of folks, right?
it's a nightmare for the girl that was painfully insecure.
Yeah.
Right. So basically what happened is I'm lifting. This is actually before I'd met my first trainer. And then I started going to Golds and people were like, oh, you should compete. This man named Charles Glass, he's kind of like the godfather of bodybuilding.
Okay.
He had just mentioned to me on the fly, he said, go thank your mom for your genetics. You have the best, you have a really great genetics for bodybuilding. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is like, I have no shape. And he's like, no, your shoulders, your hips, the ratios are where you want to be. You just need to build on that. And I
Mm.
was like, huh. So it kind of planted the thing. And then honestly, my first competition was more of a diet in my mind. Like I was
Yeah.
like, how skinny can I get? I didn't understand like I was going for a look or that, I was just like, how much can my weight go down?
Yeah.
It was more of that energy, which is probably why I crashed and burned that first show.
So you hinted at it. You said the first one didn't go well, but it wasn't the last one. So talk about, having that experience and using it as a learning lesson rather than a, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid I'll never do this again experience.
Well, the first one, I think it was brutal. It was brutal. I got last out of 30. Then I was binging like a psychopath after the show
Yeah.
because I just didn't understand what was going on with my body. So I was like, I'll never compete again. Then after that, a little bit after that, I had met my trainer, my first trainer, and he was like, we should get you ready for a show. And I was like, so I found a new federation that was more aligned with the kind of physique that I wanted to create.
Mm.
And so we got ready for that when I won that next show. So I won the next show and I end up getting my pro card because that's the way that federation did it.
Yeah.
So I get my pro card and now it's on because I also found that like the posing was more fun. The bikinis were prettier. There was like theme wear and fun things I could do that I was like, oh, this feels more expressive and like artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine there's this interesting dynamic of going from binge eating however many years previously to now you're like super focused and can only eat certain things and you have to be counting it meticulously every
Yep.
macronutrient, whatever it is. And part of me says, what a disaster waiting to happen to mix these, two things. But talk a little bit about that because I can imagine that that's an element of difficulty where if you sent to your trainer, hey, I had 3 bags of Skittles, it's probably like depending on which phase you're in of the
Yeah.
training, it's like, you did what? Why would you do that? Opposed to, hey, that's a great meal for you.
So that's a great point as well. So I would say, I cleaned up the binge eating after that first show.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect, but it was a lot better. It was like
Mhm.
an overeating episode versus a binge, which was like
Yeah.
very different energy.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't going to go into that first show have like knowing I was still struggling. Or that second show. So I was in a much healthier place. It's just gotten healthier and healthier and healthier. What
Mhm.
I do find is this, like I do better with a very low sugar diet.
Mm.
My brain responds better. I feel healthier. I feel happier, and my anxiety's lower. So now it's like a very natural thing. And I'm not going to overeat asparagus. I
Yeah,
mean, I guess
right.
I could, but
Yeah.
like, my diet isn't perfectly clean.
Yeah.
It's not all whole, real, organic, shaman blessed kale, but it is a lot. I eat mostly unprocessed foods and I just feel better. And that urge to overeat is very much at bay.
Yeah. Love it.
But it could trigger people. And I do put that warning on competing. I'm like, careful with competing. It depends on your personality type. And if you have any sort of eating disorder, tread lightly. And if you didn't have an eating disorder, there's a possibility you'll have one after.
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
it's a possibility.
it is. It is.
So yeah.
So as you're progressing in that, talk a little bit about, the idea behind the business, right? Glow Fitness.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm just a firm believer in is that, we are the best equipped to help people that we used to
Mm,
be, right?
yes.
And I think it's healthy, therapeutic, however you want to look at it, to put yourself in a spot to be able to mentor and have a mentor at the
Mm.
same time. So talk a little bit about the business, how you got started, and really what was the catalyst for you to exit corporate world and enter into your own business?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I was working at a company and everyone was kind of seeing, I'm bringing my own meals. I'm going to the gym before and after work. I worked on a project. I proposed a project where we took some video game players and we changed their diet, had them work out, and we measured their brain activity and they
Mm.
improved. And
Wow.
I was like so fascinated. So I would hurry up and get my work done, come in before and after and do these personal training and the nutrition courses for myself.
Yeah.
And then my office became a revolving door of people like, well, what do I do? How do I do this? What's that? And I found myself feeling so lit up
Yeah.
talking about it that, it was a contract. When that contract came to the end, I was like, I guess I'm going to start a business. And I started personal training in a park. And then I fell flat on my face because I had no plan or business sense.
Yeah.
And then I started, my personal training business started picking up, but I really felt like I could make a bigger impact if I could speak mindset.
Yeah.
And I started dabbling in the online coaching, and then COVID hit. And it was the best thing that ever happened. Please don't take that out
Correct.
of context for
Yep.
me, because now
Yep.
I have to go online,
Right.
and I found my entire purpose. It was like, oh my gosh, I know how to speak into people's soul and dig the truth out
Oh.
and get them to tell me the truth so they can get freaking free. Oh my
Mm.
God, what a blessing.
Yeah.
So I got to just dive into that. And I'm like, it's about the body, but it's not about the body. It's about the training, but it's not about the training. It's who you become on the journey and how you open up. My goal is for people that, yes, I want them to look hot AF,
Yep.
right? But I want them to feel that alignment.
Mm.
Shoulders back, walk into a room. People would always say, you're glowing.
Yep.
And that is why glow came up. And my clients will say now, oh my gosh, it finally happened. Someone told me I was glowing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that is what alignment looks like.
I love it. So for you now, who is your target market? What
Yeah.
types of people are best suited for working with you business wise?
Yeah. So women, I find it's 30 plus, 30 to 70, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of menopausal women. And I find it's a lot of women who have big careers.
Mm-hmm.
Not all, but a lot of women who have big careers. That is actually my next target. I deeply, deeply believe that if you up level your nutrition and your fitness as an entrepreneur, that everything else grows. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
you just be different, and it's something happens magically.
Yeah.
And it's not really magic, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. So women who and honestly, just women who are sick and tired of their own shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Now, now I'm
just,
going to ask this
yeah,
because you probably do a bunch of consultations, to make sure, hey, you're a good fit. I'm a good fit
yeah,
for you. What are the one or two most common, I'm gonna say it, I hate the word, but excuses people have
excuses.
for not getting started or to not be, in direction of where they want to be going.
I don't have time.
Yep.
It costs too much money.
Mm,
I have
love
to
it.
join a gym. They're not necessarily talking about like my program
Yeah.
directly, but the food, the
Yeah.
gym, all the things.
Yeah. Well, and so, I always think, especially on the time one, and I'm pretty in no way, shape, or form comparing my physical physique to yours. I just want that to be known
You look
right
very healthy.
now. Appreciate
That's
it.
it. And fit.
But the thing that I, have come to realize in my role, because I am more business focused than personal
Mhm.
fitness focused, but I always say, for so long I would make the excuse, well, I don't have an hour, so I'm just not going to work out today. And
Yes.
I'd say the last probably handful of years, it's like, you know what? I got 20 minutes. Like, I'll do something for 20 minutes. And is that going to make me the next Arnold Schwarzenegger? No, absolutely not. But is it going to make me, once again, keep my promise to myself, right? Grow my
Hmm.
confidence because I
Yep.
said I need to work out. And two, allow me to stay in a relatively, good health shape and, those types of things. Yes. So I think for some people, it's just, it doesn't have to be the hour, right?
Right.
That might be ideal. That might be on a great day, but it's doing something, I think, is a step for a lot of people.
It's doing something, but it's also looking for the ways to win.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's your lunch break and you're going to drive over to this restaurant or whatever. Could you walk there?
Mm-hmm.
Could you get up from your desk and walk to the coffee shop instead? Could you park your car a little further? I'm having the experience here. I'm in Michigan. Normally, I wake up, walk my dog, and I get a lot of steps. I'm on the third floor here, and I'm taking the stairs. I'm parking my car far at the gym. Like there's little at the grocery store, all the things. I'm having to make slight adjustments. I'm like, oh, this is actually what I tell my clients to do,
Yeah.
right? Because otherwise, there's no way I'm going to hit my steps. And like
Mhm.
for me, it's important because steps are, it's incredibly healthy, that movement. But yeah, I think people overcomplicate it. 20 minutes is better than 0 minutes. And don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like
Right.
if you can't if you can't do it all, do something. Prioritize protein, go on a walk and drink water,
Yep. I love it. I love
you
it.
know.
So I got to ask this last question, and we've talked about different things that you've moved on from, right? That
Mhm.
didn't serve you and whatnot. And the question I have is, I started at the beginning. I said, oftentimes we're masking for something, right? And
Yes.
we've got this deep thing that at the end of the day, it's just covering that deep thing up. Have you spent time and have you delved into what the deep thing was for you or is for you, and where are you at with that?
Yeah, it was insecurity
Hmm.
and just a fear of being seen.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the biggest shifts for me has been that, well, one, not as many people are looking at me as I think.
Yeah.
Humbling, right? I
Yep.
was like, oh wait, the world doesn't revolve around me.
Yep.
And most people are wrapped up in their own brain.
Mm.
So it's not as many eyeballs on me as I thought. And that was really helpful. I think the other thing is getting out of my head by being of service.
Yeah.
Service work is one of the most important things that I could do as a recovering alcoholic. Or recovered. I'll be 16 years sober tomorrow, which is crazy.
Congrats.
Um, but it's like, getting out of my head and being of service gets me out of my head. The
Yeah.
less I'm in my head, the better. So I revolve a lot of my life around being of service. And if I get stuck in my head about whatever, that volume is turned down a lot. But
Yeah.
if it comes up and it's like, oh yeah, be self-conscious, it's like, okay, who do I need to call and ask how they are? How
Yep.
could I be of service to somebody else? Because it's just a boring conversation to think about yourself all the time.
I love it. Well,
Like,
Brittany, I want to say thanks so much for sharing your journey and all the amazing things that you've done and are doing. And excited to watch the journey. And probably 2, 3 years down the road, we'll be doing this again, highlighting all the amazing new
yay.
work you're doing.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Phil. It was amazing to be here, and you were an incredible interviewer.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you.